Go live now to GB News political editor Christopher Hope, who joins us live from Hamilton in Scotland, and I believe he has Anas Sarwar with him. Chopper, what's going on?
That's right, Ben. With me now is Anas Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader. Anas Sarwar, you are delighted by last night's win. You said in your victory speech moments ago that you wanted Keir Starmer to go further. What does that mean?
Look, what I'm saying here is that we've got to listen to what the voters told us here, and ultimately they told us three things. One, they want rid of this SNP government that's done so much damage to our country over the last 18 years. I know that'll be a feeling felt by many GB News viewers in Scotland, and the only way of getting rid of the SNP is by supporting Scottish Labour next year in the Scottish Parliament elections. Don't listen to the noise or the nonsense from Reform, or indeed some of the commentators on GB News who want to amplify the nonsense of Reform. Instead, listen to what's happening here in Scotland. If you want rid of the SNP, only we in Scottish Labour can do it. Secondly, they have rejected actually the politics of Nigel Farage and Reform. And third, they've also made clear that they do want a UK Labour government to go further and faster and demonstrably improving their lives. And I think that's a message we've heard loud and clear.
But you were surprised by last night. You went against the odds, against what most people thought would happen.
Look, I wasn't that surprised. Of course, we knew we were in the race. We didn't think we were guaranteed to win. I think the most people that are surprised are the political pollsters, the pundits, the commentators and the bookies, who frankly all got it wrong, and we proved to them that the circumstance on the ground is very different than what they want to commentate on. They might want to focus and fixate on the rights and wrongs of a UK Labour government. They might want to fixate on issues that Reform tried to bring to the table in this by-election, but what the people here care about is improving their lives and getting rid of this SNP government. So I say quite clearly and openly to any GB News viewer in Scotland, if you want to get rid of the SNP, if you want a change of government, if you want a different direction, whatever your views on a multitude of issues, next year the choice is this: a third decade of the SNP with John Swinney in charge, or a new direction of Scotland with a Scottish Labour government. So if you want to beat them, you've got to vote Scottish Labour.
Are you worried though about the appeal of Reform? They won 58 votes in 2021, more than 7,000 last night. They ran your team a close third. Why are people turning to Reform UK in Scotland?
Well, I think there's a few different factors. I think there was always quite a significant Conservative Party vote in this constituency that clearly has transferred en masse to Reform. Secondly, there will be people who are frustrated with both governments and therefore chose to vote Reform as the kind of protest vote in this by-election, but next year they got a chance to change the government by supporting Scottish Labour. And third, some of them will have fallen for the frankly nonsense spouted by John Swinney, where he pretended that this was a straight choice between the SNP and Reform. So people thought maybe they had to support Reform in order to beat the SNP. That is clearly proven not to be the case. So I say quite simply, if you want to get rid of the SNP, if you want to end the damage that has been done to our country by the SNP, if you want to get onto the right priorities, not the obsessions of the nationalists, then you have to support Scottish Labour next year in the Scottish Parliament.
If they win, say, mid-20s MSPs going on last night's result on the list system next year, they may keep you out of office. You may have to form some form of coalition with Reform to form a government.
No, I don't accept that, because the system here is, of course, you have the first past the post seats and then you have the list seats. There is not a single constituency in the country that Reform can win. And in the vast majority of constituencies, it is a straight choice between Labour and the SNP. So if you want to get rid of the SNP, you need to support Scottish Labour. And if we overwhelmingly win the constituencies, I believe that makes sure that we have a Scottish Labour government and the SNP are removed from office.
What's your message now to Nigel Farage? He's probably bought a kilt now. He'll be up in more often, won't he?
All I'd say is good morning, Nigel, Eid Mubarak, and I hope you enjoyed the result last night.
And just very finally, will you debate him on GB News ahead of the election next year?
Well, look, next year's election is not about Nigel Farage as much as Nigel Farage will want to make it about him. So in advance of that election, if Nigel Farage wants to challenge me on my views, no problem, I'll challenge him on his views. But next year, in the Scottish Parliament election, he can keep his nonsense elsewhere, because the choice is not between Nigel Farage and Scottish Labour. It's not between Nigel Farage and John Swinney. The choice next year is a simple one. Either it's going to be John Swinney as First Minister, or it's going to be me. And if you want to end the rule of the nationalists, if you want to stop a third decade of them, if you want to end the risk of independence, if you want to stop SNP waste, if you want to end the wrong priorities of this SNP government, you only have one choice to do it, and that's by supporting Scottish Labour.
Anas Sarwar, thank you for joining us on GB News.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you, thank you. Anas Sarwar there, the victorious Scottish Labour leader, with a message to Nigel Farage. He will debate him if Nigel Farage accepts it ahead of the next year's Holyrood elections.
Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Interesting. I thought that was quite a good tack that Anas Sarwar was going on, that if you want to get rid of the terrible SNP, then the only choice is actually the Labour government, Labour Party, rather than the Reform UK. But Reform UK did really, really well. If you look at the numbers and the amount of votes, you'll see that actually there wasn't really that much in it.
26%, up on 2021 by 26 points, of course, because I don't think Reform were there in 21. Labour down 2 points. So Anas Sarwar can take victory laps all he likes, but I don't think it was a devastating victory. If anything, you take from that, whether you're a Reform supporter or not, I think the clearest picture is that Reform have made massive ground in Scotland.
And also, the clearest picture is that the Scottish are sick of the SNP. So the SNP, I think this is a sort of a kind of little monolith of what might happen later on, because obviously these by-elections start to represent what may happen in a general election, which is interesting.
Who do you think would win in a debate between Nigel Farage and Anas Sarwar?
Anas Sarwar was very, very good. He was quite compelling, but I still think Nigel Farage would win.
He's not a bad talker, is he?
No, and I actually agree with a lot of the points he made. I would rather, if I was Scottish, rather have Labour than the SNP. And if you look at the numbers and you look at this, you might think, well, actually, the real choice is between the SNP and Labour. And even if you are a Reform voter, you might then consider getting rid of the SNP and voting Labour.
So you'd be Scottish Labour for what, independence?
No, I don't support any. I don't support any of those. I mean, if I was there, I'd probably prefer a Reform. But it's the tactic, isn't it? It's tactical voting. You don't want the SNP. They're the worst. So then, Labour have triumphed ahead of the SNP and Reform in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election.
Yes, after being announced as the winner, Davy Russell wasted no time in taking aim at Nigel Farage's Reform UK.
This community has also sent a message to Farage and his mob tonight. The poison of Reform isn't us, it isn't Scotland, and we don't want your division here. Reform have no real answers to the issues we face, and they can't beat the SNP here or replace them across Scotland. And for Ross, can you see me now?
Yeah, great result for Reform, and they were third, of course. They lost the by-election, but it
26%,
shows they're making big ground in Scotland.
Yeah, 26%. The Conservatives got 6. Toast.
Columnist for the Scotsman and former MSP Brian Monteith joins us now. Good morning to you. Thank you for your company, Brian. What's your take on what we saw overnight, please?
Well, I think it's a particularly poor result for the SNP. They had, in fact, begged Labour voters to support them, to support the so-called far-right bogeyman of Reform UK and Nigel Farage. In that respect, it failed. Labour voters came out in numbers that were unexpected. And, of course, Reform did amazingly well, rising from about 7% in the Westminster constituency area in Hamilton last July to 26% in the Holyrood constituency this time, with far less resources, with no data really to go on. And it was the data in the end that probably won it for Labour, because they flooded the constituency yesterday, people pulling out known Labour voters and encouraging them to vote. And I think that's what it came down to in the end. A bit more time, and actually Reform could have won it. So it's a good result for Reform, a good result for Nigel Farage, a good result for Labour, but a dreadful result for the SNP.
In a way, although, because obviously I don't think the SNP are any good, it's good that another party is now in charge of their area. But do you think, actually, looking at this, that what we're seeing is the SNP really crumbling and fading, and in the end, Scotland may well go back to becoming run by Labour?
Well, this, of course, was a by-election, and that brings in all sorts of different components, particularly the ability to get your troops in and concentrate in a seat. And where that seat is, and whether you have a local candidate, such as Davy Russell clearly is, can make a difference. when you've got an election across the whole of the country and you have to spread your resources to where you think they'll be most effective, that will make a difference, and that will give the SNP more strength. And of course, in the main, the SNP is the leading nationalist party and will appeal to most nationalists, and so can expect to be in the region of 28-30%, whereas in all the other seats, the pro-UK parties tend to split their vote. It was not a bad result for the Conservatives, in as much as they did not lose their deposit, which was the big word.
What's the deposit in Scotland, Brian? Is it 500 quid?
Yeah. But they are looking like toast, except in probably a few redoubts where they have personalities or historical connection with.
All right, Brian, thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for your company.